I'm Steve Colino, and this is Confidential Remarks. What I want to walk through today is a shift that's already happening, whether the industry wants to admit it or not. For a long time, advice has lived inside closed systems. Systems where conclusions are handed down, but the reasoning stays hidden. Open access advisory is about breaking that pattern. It's about moving away from authority-based trust and towards something stronger: clarity. When people can see how advice is built, trust stops being fragile and starts becoming durable. You've probably heard this phrase before: homeowners aren't qualified to judge expert advice. And honestly, it sounds reasonable at first. Most people aren't experts in construction, finance, law, or planning. But this line is often used as a shield. It's used to justify why clients shouldn't see how decisions are actually made. That argument only holds up in a closed system. The real problem isn't that clients aren't smart enough. It's that information is intentionally withheld. When everything stops at the advisor, the client is forced to operate in the dark. And when people don't have visibility, trust becomes a guess instead of a decision. In a closed system, advice shows up fully formed, but the critical pieces are missing. You don't see incentives. You don't see alternatives. You don't see trade-offs or exclusions. All you get is the final answer, with no way to understand what shaped it or what was left on the table. When inputs are hidden, clients are pushed into blind trust. They're told to believe in the outcome without ever seeing the assumptions behind it. That kind of trust is brittle. The moment something feels off, the relationship starts to crack because there was never a shared understanding to begin with. Open access flips this entire model around. It doesn't ask clients to become experts. It gives them access to the record behind the advice. The logic, the incentives, the constraints, the options, everything that actually matters. The advisor isn't a gatekeeper anymore. They're a guide. The first pillar is representation. In closed systems, representation is often assumed or loosely defined. Under open access, representation is disclosed clearly, in writing every time. No ambiguity, no guessing. Everyone knows who represents whom and under what terms. The second pillar is compensation. Closed systems hide how money really moves. Back-end deals and incentives stay out of sight. Open access makes compensation visible, not because incentives disappear, but because once they're visible, they can be understood and evaluated honestly. The third pillar is strategic paths. Closed systems tend to push one preferred outcome. Open access lays out multiple paths. You see the options, the risks, and the trade-offs side by side. The client isn't herded, they're informed. This also changes the advisor's role. In closed systems, advisors control the process. In open access, they explain consequences and help navigate complexity. The value of expertise shifts from control to context. When the record is open, something interesting happens. Clients stop trying to game the system. They stop playing agent. Instead, they evaluate information the same way they do with doctors, attorneys, or financial professionals. Transparency replaces suspicion. Expertise doesn't disappear under open access. It becomes auditable. The value of the advisor shifts from "I know best" to "I can prove it." Confidence comes not from authority alone, but from reasoning that can be examined, questioned, and trusted. Closed systems rely on authority. Open access relies on clarity. Authority asks for obedience. Clarity earns trust, and trust built on clarity lasts longer, especially when decisions get hard. Clarity is what turns advice into trust. When we move from conclusions back to inputs, we don't just improve decisions, we improve relationships. Open access doesn't weaken expertise, it strengthens it. This has been Confidential Remarks.